Joining us now, he is the head coach of the Baylor Bears, entering now 24th season. That's unbelievable. Over 1,000 wins in his head coaching career, approaching 900 at Baylor. And of course, knows a thing or two about success. And I speak of Glenn Moore joining us back here on In the Circle. How you doing, Coach?
Doing great. Just trying to stay warm down here in Texas. That's not something we have a problem with usually, but we are right now.
Everybody is. It's unbelievable. And everybody doesn't feel sympathy with me when I bring up the fact I'm in Orlando and it's 40 degrees. Nobody cares. Everybody's like, yeah, you've got it good, right? So, it's cold. Hopefully it'll warm up. I know your team last year warmed up towards the second half of the year, made a big push. We're in the mix to host. Obviously, injuries had to deal with that in the pitching. When you look back at last season and everything you accomplished, 40 wins, what comes to your mind? Is it proud and success, or is it like a what if type of year?
No, I think we made a move in the right direction. We were down for a couple of years. We finished COVID with I think a 19-4 record when COVID hit, and we're on a good path and lost some key players from that. Had some returning and just juggling that. Kind of went down from there a little bit, and wanted to make a turn in 2021. We ended up not making the NCAA tournament. Big blow to our goals for that year, and thought that we were, I guess, 2022, and thought that we were, on the cuff of making it. And not a bad year overall, but we just didn't do enough. We lost some key games, so we were kind of headed in the wrong direction. And fought back and ended up having to go through the NISC, which was a big decision for us, Eric, to go from being a perennial NCAA team to dropping down and playing in that tournament. What we thought where our program was and the youthfulness of our program, it might be a good starting point to rejuvenate our program. And in fact, I talked to Scott Drew, our men's basketball coach, in depth about that decision, and he felt that catapulted him to eventually winning a national championship. We're hoping it has the same luck with us. It was 8 years later, so give me some time, but certainly he played a role in that. The girls were bought in to going, and I think finishing on a winning note, winning that tournament, catapulted us into a great fall and kind of turning the corner last year. So we didn't finish where we wanted to last year, mostly I think due to injuries. You lose Aaliyah Benford early in the year at the third weekend. She blew her ACL out. She played a huge factor in our win against Oklahoma, coming in and getting that save. Dari Orm, we had to then overthrow her more than we had anticipated. And I think that just showed up toward the end when she got to where she wasn't able to finish the season. So two key injuries right there that really poured some water on a pretty good burning fire. We were able to get a sweep of Texas with a freshman and sophomore in the circle, so that's exciting to know that we have kids that can compete at that high level, that young. So we did some good things, hoping to do better this year.
Well, and you mentioned that tournament NIC. I remember when I had you on the show, you said that was big because that at the time that roster was so young. You were so young, and that was a great experience to taste that postseason. And I've had a number of coaches come on the show since, Coach, and they've used you as an example of that have participated and gone on to play in the NIC because they saw what an impact it did for your team and moving forward. They're like, Baylor set the tone for what they really made me think of what to do with my program to help my players get that experience, to help us get to that next step. What's that like? I mean, that's had an impact, I know, in a lot of coaches, and it really inspiration from that standpoint of, that was a great move. I should do that if I have that opportunity.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. I also have had that conversation with quite a few that felt we're just struggling with making the decision on whether to attend or not. And I can only speak truly for ourselves and where we were at the time and what we needed. But I'm a big advocate for it, and I think Dave's doing a great thing with Triple Crown, offering that opportunity to programs that have wherever they are at the time. If their kids have played well, we were young, we were very young. we have some construction going on here. I apologize if that noise is bad in the background. So, but yeah, we were very young, as you said. We had two seniors on that team and only one junior, so we were a team. We were really a two-year school at the moment, and I think it was a very positive experience and led to a very good off season. So I certainly recommend it. It depends on where your program is, and I think schools that are traditionally attending NCAAs are going to have more problem accepting the going to that tournament. But for us and where we were at the time, it was a positive.
Well, now a couple years ago that was a young team and all that. Now you've got all this experience, coach. Like I look at your roster, like whoa, they've been here for a while.
Now you're
Uh,
trying to put pressure on me, Eric.
no, it's a good problem to have. Trust me. And obviously your pitching staff. You mentioned the injuries that you had last year to Binford and Orney, and that's obviously something that I'm sure people are going to ask you about. I want to start though because the thing that gets lost in that, you mentioned it, it created opportunities for other young pitchers to step up because you had no choice. You had to step up. I think of a Riley Crandall had to step up. 16 wins last year, a Casey West. Just talk about your staff as a whole because I think as a result of that, I know it was not pleasant to go through the injuries. You didn't want that to happen. But there's the positive is I think you almost now have even more depth pitching wise than you've had in maybe a few years. Is that accurate?
I think so. I think more quality depth for sure, and the experience that Riley and Casey West were able to get with the absence of Benford and then later Orm being out. You can't put a value on that. Both of them had key wins against Texas. Riley had 2 wins against Crandall had 2 wins against Texas, and then wins against Tennessee. Some big wins. They pitched well enough for us to provide the run support and get a couple of victories that I think they can carry a long way. Now, at the same time, they pitched poorly against some teams that we should have pitched better. But that's the youthfulness in pitchers. A lot of times, our players as a whole, not be able to get your game ready day in and day out. It has a little bit to do with that. It also has a little bit to do with management and where our hands were tied and not being able to give them enough rest in between games such as that. So having another arm or two in the bullpen hopefully will allow us to manage our bullpen a little more efficiently and keep them, especially Orm, rested.
I was going to mention, I mean, does having that depth allow you to maybe not be cautious, but obviously you don't have to overuse a pitcher like a Binford or an Orney, keep them healthier as the season goes on? Is that part of it too? The advantage of having that staff, you don't overextend somebody.
Certainly is. I think the days of throwing out there one pitcher to pitch 3 games in a weekend are way gone. They pitch too much in travel ball now. When they get to us, they're many times have used up 60-70% of their career, I think. So you have to be careful and manage it efficiently, and that's an ongoing calculation that Coach Newman and Brittany and I have over how to handle these pitchers. Some of it's, we're at a private school where $70,000+ a year to go to school. You're not going to have 11 pitchers like a baseball team would. You're not going to have that many quality arms. So when you do have a few like we have this year, it's certainly a plus. You're hoping to be able to spread your scholarships out enough to have 3 competitive arms, and you really need 4 or 5 right now.
When you have a couple talented pitchers coming back from an injury like you do, when you start the season, do you put restrictions? Do you know what I mean? Like kind of be, let's be cautious. Let's, they're only allowed to do certain things, or are they healthy enough to where, hey, you're 100%, you're full go. We're gonna, we'll use you however we got to use you.
No, I think again, every situation is a little bit different, but I think right now our desire is to have a pitch count for the ones that have been injured. Benford hurt her knee, so it'll depend on how her knee feels, the soreness, how she's recovering. The weather will play a big role in her longevity. Orm had thoracic outlet, so she's had a portion of a rib removed. So it's really not the arm; it's a neurological issue there with her, and it's just really a matter of her getting back into pitching shape right now. She's feeling pretty good, but having been released just recently, I think we need to keep her on a pitch count so that we don't do any damage to the arm, and that may cause us to, you know, lose a game or two that we might not would lose if she was able to finish out. But early on, it's important for her to work her way back into being as healthy as possible when it matters most, and that's in Big 12 play.
Offensively, returned a ton of talent, obviously, an All-American especially. Speak about your offense and the returners there and the growth you've seen from them.
Yeah, you're talking about Shaylin Govin. She's one of the top hitters to ever wear green and gold for us. Very cerebral hitter that's got tremendous power and shows up every game. Played with a torn labrum herself last year and had surgery at the end of the season. Was released in I think October, but missed the fall. November, I think she's released early November. Missed the fall, but has been full go ever since the fall was over, and she works extra to get caught back up. So she's certainly a factor. We're going to have to make sure we protect her. She's not going to get pitched to like she did last year, and that's always a factor in the second year. Someone makes a name for themselves, but we have her surrounded by some that can certainly Aaliyah Benford back in the lineup, both pitching and offense is a big threat. Home run power for sure. Long ball. Sydney Clauses did a good job of protecting her last year, nearly a 400 hitter, and we expect her to, be as good, if not better than she was last year. One, I think that we got to figure out how to juggle our lineup. It's going to be a big challenge with me because we got a couple of hitters that need to be in a lineup that we don't know exactly how to put them in defensively right now. And one is Abby Flores. She's a medical redshirt freshman that we lost last year as well. Would have been a big factor in our offense last year. Very sweet, smooth swing, electricity in her hands, and she's a big time threat as well. But we got some speed, not a lot of short game like we've had in the past, but we have some that are have that dimension in their game that they can go to if we need to do that. Mackenzie Wilson, of course, is one that sticks out. Anna Watson and Emily Hott. So we got two up the middle, two of the best middle infielders we've had that can also swing it in Amber Tovin and Presley Pylon too. So really excited about our offense. I think we're going to be able to add a little bit more power this year, and we're still going to have the doubles.
That's impressive. I'm in awe of her, Shayla, what you just told me. She wasn't healthy 100%, and yet she hit 369, 11 homers, 54 RBIs. I would be very concerned if I was an opponent of yours and I had to face her and she's 100% healthy. Holy mackerel. And then it's amazing what you accomplish with all the injuries. It's not an excuse. Injuries happen. But you did deal with so many injuries, and yet you did, because some people are like, well, if you would have been healthy, maybe you host and stuff, but at the same time, it is remarkable what you accomplished considering all the injuries you had last year.
Yeah, I appreciate you saying that. The hosting was one of our goals, and we felt we were on the verge of that, but we didn't perform well. To the committee's defense, we didn't perform well the last couple of weeks, Big 12 tournament, and the struggle up at Iowa State. I ran into a senior-laden team that was on fire to go out with not any really hopes of postseason for them, and we were limping a little bit at the time, not to take anything from him because Jamie did an outstanding job. He probably scheduled too hard early in this season, or he'd have finished much stronger as well. And I got a lot of respect for what he does. But they probably are the reason why we didn't make it. We weren't able to host last year, and that was a big goal of ours. Having said that, like I said, we were limping too, so we weren't in the best shape.
You've got three freshmen, I believe, on your roster with Leah and Lexi and Paige. What do you expect from them, and what do you want them to learn from your leaders, your experienced players?
Yeah, I'll start with Leah, who has been unbelievable through the fall. Leah Cran, middle infielder for us. We've moved her to third because that's a question mark right now for us. We've got three capable, so it's just really going to be watching the cream rise to the top. Three or four, honestly. When Colossus is not catching, she's probably going to see some time there as she did last year. We got to keep her bat in the lineup as much as possible. But Leah is a great middle infielder that's going to give us some depth at both second and short, and I think makes both of those guys both of those kids better as well. Um, Warnke is going to be the extra arm in the bullpen that can will be good for her to take some time to be able to groom behind, assuming we stay healthy with the ones ahead of her right now to get some innings that we can groom her into who we want. We think she can be good down the stretch, and we don't have to just throw her to the lines right away and can get her out of there when we need to and protect her a little bit so she can grow. And then have Paige King, who's would be a off the bench pinch hitter type, but she's got a great swing as well. She won't see much playing time on defense because she's got Govan ahead of her at first base, and a pretty good backup to Govan is Abby Flores, who we've already talked about. So she's a little far down on the depth chart, but she should get some at bats from pinch hitting every now and then.
Looking at your schedule, when I first saw it, I'm like, whoa, my jaw dropped. You're going to open hosting Tennessee in I don't know, old school, like a baseball 3-game series. Let me just start with that, because that might be the marquee series of the first weekend of the season. How did that come about? And this is not the first time you're playing a 3-game series. You're also going to go to Lafayette to play Louisiana in a 3-game series. Is that just something you like more than tournaments, or it just worked out that way?
I think I'm losing my mind. I always like to schedule according to what I feel the potential of the team is. I think I overdid it a little bit in the month of February because we have not had a February this strong. Uh, Tennessee was a home and home. We were going to go there last year and then come back, and they were going to join a tournament. The tournament, once saw the strength of it, some teams started jumping out of it. So we ended up not being able to fill our tournament. So we're opening with what one poll has as the number 2 team in the nation, and they're certainly good. And they're going to come in here really upset because we were able to slip away with 2 wins against them last year up there. That we probably weren't the better team, but everything played into our hands, and we played well that weekend in terrible conditions. But I know how good they are. So fans are in for a very exciting weekend. And then you said Lafayette, they're already underrated in the polls. They're a top 10 team, in my opinion, very strong, and most everybody back. And I was smart enough to put a McNeese State, who
Yeah.
on the front end of that 3-game series, who we all know what they did last year. And then we head out west to play UCLA and Notre Dame and Oregon and Missouri. And so, yeah, the month of February, if we can just make it through it, I think we'll know a whole lot more about where we are, and so will the world. But I've always liked, Eric, to play a tough schedule. If you felt like you had the pitching, you had the team to compete, because yeah, you're going to take it on the chin here and there, but man, you're going to be battle tested by the time you get into Big 12, and then the Big 12 is going to prepare you for postseason. And I just don't want to look back at the end of the year and say, man, if I'd have just had the courage to put our team against a few more top level teams, we might have made it to Oklahoma City, or we'd have had a better chance at hosting. I want to give our girls the opportunity to pave the path to Oklahoma City, the best way they can. And playing at home, it's been a while since we've hosted a regional, and this is an opportunity. Hey, here's the formula, and you got the teams that will help you do it. You just have to perform now, and they know it. It's a mature team, as you said. It's a veteran team, and a lot of good leadership here. And I think it's in front of us. If we're able to do it, we'll be set up pretty good.
Who are your leaders on the group at this point, and are they the vocal type of leaders, or are they more of a lead by example type of leaders you have?
Well, I'm fortunate to have that leader those leaders that do both perform and are vocal. And then I have some leaders that are more performers and don't say a whole lot. So probably the best leadership I've had in a team in 10, 15 years. And it starts with Daria Orm. She's a great, very respected leader that is vocal and can get it done. And she holds herself accountable. Great leaders do that. She takes ownership whenever she doesn't throw well, she doesn't do her job, never a lack of effort, loves the program, loves the school, and she sells it all the time. Mackenzie Wilson's a little bit more of a quiet leader. Shaylin Govan is becoming more outspoken. But the camaraderie, the chemistry, The culture, I always say the culture at just about any school is made up of the culture is what kids you have there. They define your culture, and your leadership defines your culture. It's very seldom is it about the coaches. So when we have good culture, it's a compliment to the leadership we have. And you can't determine that whenever they're in the ninth and 10th grade when you're recruiting them. They grow so much from that point to the time they get into their junior year where they can actually lead. So I'm just really proud of them. It says a lot for who they are, and it says a lot for their families as well.
You're going to open Big 12 play against Oklahoma State. Of course, this year the Big 12 is unique with Oklahoma and Texas in their final season. You have UCF, Houston, BYU in the conference. Your thoughts? Here we are. We've talked about this when you've been on before, but here we are in reality now. The schedule's there, the teams are there, and I sense a lot of excitement in talking to everybody in the league about what this league can produce this year. You were the number one conference RPI last year. Now you've added more depth. And I think there's excitement around the league with many interesting storylines. You've seen it all. Your thoughts on the Big 12 2024 edition?
It's going to be fun. Buckle up, get ready to go. It's going to be fun every weekend. I look at some of our other sports, men's basketball, women's basketball, and everything going on right now. The Big 12 is a great conference. There's the Power Four, if you will, anymore. They're all good. There's all great conferences. But with the teams we're bringing in, the coaches, those markets, it's going to be such a great conference. And even after the two schools leave out, you're going to bring in Arizona State, and Utah. And Arizona State have 13, 14 national champions, 15 national championships between the two of them. And Utah is probably in the best shape of those three right now, so I think there's going to be much more parity. But man, from top to bottom in this conference, you're just going to have every weekend a dogfight and a lot of fun. It's going to be a very special softball conference once we get our feet on the ground.
With the league being larger, bigger, how much, if at all, does that impact your non-conference scheduling moving forward? Because you do lose some dates with a bigger league, but how big of an impact, if at all, does the conference have on your non-conference scheduling moving forward?
I think it depends on how these programs progress and where we are RPI wise. I think you've got to schedule non-conference enough to balance your schedule out, build confidence in going into your conference season. And at the same time, the RPI that the conferences like the SEC are going to have at the end, and the advantages they're going to have in hosting. For me, I have two pretty good programs right here in my backyard in Texas A&M and in Texas. We've got to capitalize on having them here and strengthening our RPI and playing those schools and being willing to play those instead of a RPI school outside the 100s. And that's tough. You need some kind of balance there because you've got to build your team. You've got to make sure you don't lose games at the same time that you can't lose. But it's I don't know if there's a magic wand that tells you how to schedule in those situations. You got to look at what you have, what you can do, and make sure you keep a good balance there. But, at the end of the year, it's not really about, as long as you're above 500, it's not going to be about, being 48 and 8. It's going to be about who you play and who you beat and who you lost to. And, I think that's the way it is really right now, but it's going to even be more significant that we schedule a good balanced schedule that will push us to the limit.
Well, you've proven that being creative with your scheduling. I mean, you've played Oklahoma in, quote, non-conference games, as it turns out, in these tournament formats. Of course, you beat them last season in that type of deal. So you're very creative when that comes in. You're willing to play, and it sounds like you'd be willing to play at Texas as a bus trip, and Oklahoma you've played already as a non-conference game, so that might gives you a couple extra options moving forward down the road.
Yeah, I don't believe in padding your stats. I know everybody likes to hit home runs, everybody likes to score and hear the crowd cheer, but I'm probably more outcome oriented than you think. And when I say outcome, I mean you have to really know what you're doing in the process of getting to that point. And if you're going to think down the road, you better have it set up to where you can be the best you can be down the road. Just getting to an NCAA tournament, I'm too old. I've been there a few times, is not enough. I want to put our team in a position to be successful. That's how you do it. You start doing it in February.
Couple more things. Some changes over the offseason. The pitch clock now at 20 seconds there for in the game of the softball as they try to speed up the game a little bit. They did some modification to the illegal pitches. There's more things to have instant replay of. Any of those rules that kind of you stood out to you this offseason and your reaction to it?
Yeah. I would just say from a critical standpoint, I don't think there's and again, this is probably showing my age a little bit. There's not a whole lot wrong with our game, and I don't want to tinker with it too much. Now, the 20 seconds from 25 to 20, I don't think it's going to make a big impact. And if that helps TV, then that's fine. So I probably wouldn't. I probably wouldn't have gone there if I'd have been the only person voting, because I think our game's plenty fast enough. But I understand what they're doing. I don't want to look at baseball and everything baseball does. We feel like we have to do when they're playing 9 innings and we're playing 7. But having said that, that's probably the only thing. I'm a big fan of removing the leap from being illegal, because I think that has hurt our game for 25 years. Of course, I come from a male background where almost anything you do is legal, but I don't like the double plant. That's an advantage. To me, it's not hard to distinguish between the two, but we're about to find out how hard it is. But the foot leaving the ground is not an advantage to the pitcher, and it's just caused some unnecessary um, trauma, if you will, for some pitchers. There's pitchers that have lost their careers because of a needless rule that we've had for so many years. We've had one or two here. So I'm in favor of that change. We're looking at the double base, and NCAA decided not to go with that. We'd practice with that in the fall. Could go either way with that. I'm kind of in favor of going to the double base because of, the safety of keeping big scholarship people out of way of contact if you don't have to. But it's not a make or break for me either. So they're all good. They're all pretty good to me overall.
I agree. I agree with you. I like too. I'm with you. I got your back as far as let's not tinker too much. The game is good. I understand you want to speed up games and things, but some things are beyond your control. I mean, instant replay, which a lot of people like, and I'm one of them, will slow the game down. I mean, that's
Yep.
just by nature. So, people enjoy the games. The game's growing as big every year as it is. So, that's great. I'll let you go on this. When you get your season, as you get your season going, what are a couple questions you have in your mind that you're curious to learn and find out about your team early on this season that might, dictate, then pay the way for the rest of the season?
Yeah, I think it's crucial that we handle adversity well early on, and that's where the leadership will come into play. To expect to go through our month of February and be undefeated is really unrealistic with the teams we're playing. You're going to play every game to win. I get that, but I want to find out how we can bounce back from a loss and how we handle going 0 for 4, 0 for 5, and how if we self-destruct in certain positions, that's when our depth is going to come into play. If we start showing signs of immaturity there, then we'll have somebody hopefully at most positions that we can give a look to. So I want to see the pressure put on our team in February early, and we have a schedule that will clearly do that the first weekend. I guess the other thing is just our endurance with our health, just finding out how healthy we are. Got a couple of questions in our lineup that are still not solidified from the fall. A couple of positions, really just mainly third base, but our pitching rotation, who's going to play what role, middle reliever, closer type. Those are things that we've got to find out early.
That is Baylor head coach Glenn Moore joining us here on In the Circle. Coach, always a pleasure to talk to you. I enjoy talking to you every year about your team and softball in general. I know you always have great thought about the game, and I always appreciate you sharing that with us. Thanks so much for taking time from the busy schedule to talk to us for a few minutes. Good luck this season, and I know we'll cross paths during the year, but I always appreciate you coming on the show.
3 weeks away, baby. We're about to play another softball season. Let's go. Thank you, Eric.